The transport shuttle's engines whined as it descended through Carthon Prime's toxic atmosphere, and Logan Maris pressed his face against the viewport, watching the planet's scarred surface rush up to meet them. 3 years of military service, to deployments to hostile worlds, and he'd never seen anything quite like this hellscape. Crimson storm clouds swirled over jagged peaks, and the terrain below looked like it had been carved by some cosmic blade, all sharp edges and shadow-filled. "Kenyans, welcome to paradise," muttered the pilot, a grizzled veteran named Torres. "Hope you brought your dancing shoes, Maris. This rock likes to eat newcomers." Logan adjusted his combat pack and checked his sidearm. "I've heard the stories. Sink pits, toxic storms, predators that hunt by movement. That's just the planet trying to kill you." Torres replied with a dark chuckle. "Wait until you meet the locals." Outpost Zeta 17 materialized from the swirling dust like a metallic oasis, a collection of prefabricated structures connected by covered walkways, all surrounded by energy barriers that hummed with barely contained power. Logan had seen plenty of forward bases, but this was his first joint operation with the Tyri. The moment he stepped off the transport, the heat hit him like a physical blow. Even through his environmental suit, he could feel Carthon Prime's hostility. The air recyclers worked overtime, and every breath tasted metallic. "Specialist Maris." A stern voice cut through the ambient noise. Commander Hayes strode toward him, a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. "Welcome to Zeta 17. I trust your journey was enlightening, educational, ma'am," Logan replied, snapping to attention. "Good, because your real education starts now." Hayes gestured toward the main command structure. "You're about to be partnered with a Tyri scout. I know what you're thinking. You've worked solo for 3 years. You don't need a babysitter. Forget everything you think you know about partnership." They walked through the base's central hub, where human and Tyri personnel moved with practiced efficiency. Logan had seen images of the Tyri before, but encountering them in person was different. They moved with fluid grace, their communication consisting of rapid clicking sounds and subtle hand gestures that seemed to convey complex meanings. "The Tyri don't think like us," Hayes continued. "They don't feel like us, but they're the only reason we're surviving on this rock. Their senses are adapted for environments like this, and their tactical thinking is unique." They stopped outside a briefing room where a figure waited in the shadows. Logan's breath caught as she stepped into the light pale purple skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence, dark curly hair that framed angular features, and eyes that held depths he couldn't begin to fathom. "Specialist Maris," Hayes said, "meet your new partner, Siriana of the Tyri 7th Reconnaissance. You'll need to trust her with your life, because she already knows yours depends on her." Siriana's response to the introduction was a series of rapid clicks and a fluid gesture that Logan couldn't interpret. Her expression remained neutral, almost cold. As she studied him with those piercing eyes, "She says you move like prey," Hayes translated dryly. "Apparently, that's not a compliment in Tyri culture." Logan bristled. "I've survived 3 years of combat deployment." A sharp clicking sound from Siriana cut him off. This time, her hand moved in a dismissive wave. "She says your survival was luck, not skill," Hayes continued. "On Carthon Prime, luck runs out quickly." 24 hours later, Logan understood what she meant. They were 3 kilometers behind enemy lines, moving through a canyon system that twisted like a snake's spine. Every shadow could hide a predator. Every sound might be their last warning. Siriana moved ahead of him with impossible silence, her form seeming to flow round obstacles. Her head turned constantly, those alien senses processing information Logan couldn't even detect. When she suddenly froze and made a sharp downward gesture, Logan dropped without question. The ground beneath them trembled, and something massive passed overhead, a native predator with wings that blocked out the crimson sky. Logan held his breath, but Siriana's hand found his shoulder. Her touch surprisingly warm through his suit. She made another gesture, and somehow he understood. "Be still, it hunts by movement." Minutes passed like hours when Siriana finally moved. Again, the creature was gone. "How did you?" Logan began. Her clicking response was soft, almost musical. Without haste to translate, Logan was lost, but something in her tone suggested concern for him. Their next test came at a choke point where the canyon narrowed. Siriana's posture changed, becoming tense and alert. She pointed to a series of small holes in the rock face, then made a gesture Logan was beginning to recognize as danger. Tunnel runners, he whispered. Remembering the briefing about Carthun Prime's indigenous predators, Siriana nodded, then began a complex series of hand signals. When Logan looked confused, she actually stepped closer, her fingers touching his arm as she guided his attention to specific points in the rock face. Her touch sent an unexpected jolt through him, not just the physical contact, but the trust implicit in her gesture. She was teaching him to see what she saw. The attack came without warning. Chittering creatures poured from the holes, their razor-sharp claws designed for tearing flesh. Logan's rifle barked, but Siriana was already moving, her own weapon singing as she carved through the swarm with lethal precision. One of the creatures broke through, heading straight for Logan's blind spot. He spun, knowing he was too slow, but Siriana was already there. Her blade found the creature's neck, and purple blood sprayed across the canyon wall. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and for the first time, Logan saw something other than cold efficiency in her alien features, something that might have been protective. "Thank you," he said quietly. Her response was a soft clicking sound, almost like a purr, and Logan realized that maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to understand her language after all. 3 weeks into their partnership, Logan had learned to read the subtle variations in Siriana's clicking patterns. High-pitched rapid clicks meant immediate danger. Low, rhythmic pulses indicated safe zones, but it was the soft, almost musical sounds she made when they were alone that fascinated him most. They were taking shelter in an abandoned mining facility during one of Carthun Prime's infamous toxic storms. The wind howled outside, carrying enough poison to kill a human in minutes. Logan checked his environmental suit's seals for the 3rd time, while Siriana sat motionless near the entrance, her enhanced senses monitoring the storm's intensity. "How long?" Logan asked, gesturing toward the swirling chaos outside. Siriana's response was a series of quick clicks followed by a hand gesture indicating time. Logan had learned this meant roughly 2 hours. "Great," he muttered, settling back against the cold metal wall, just enough time to go crazy from boredom. To his surprise, Siriana made a sound he'd never heard before, a soft, trilling noise that almost sounded like laughter. When he looked at her questioningly, she moved closer, settling beside him with fluid grace. For the first time since their partnership began, she initiated conversation. Her clicking was different now, more complex, layered with meaning Logan struggled to interpret. But her gestures were clearer. She was asking about his past, his world, his life before Carthun Prime. Logan found himself talking, describing Earth's blue skies and green forests, concepts that seemed alien to someone who'd evolved under crimson suns. Siriana listened intently, occasionally making soft inquiring sounds that encouraged him to continue. "What about you?" Logan asked eventually. "What's your world like?" Her response was hauntingly beautiful, a series of melodic clicks that painted images of crystalline cities and floating gardens. But there was something else in her tone, something that sounded almost lonely. Without thinking, Logan reached out and touched her hand. Her skin was warm, softer than he'd expected, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her palm up to meet his, her fingers intertwining with his in a gesture that transcended species. "Siriana," he said quietly, testing the sound of her name on his tongue. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the cultural barriers between them seemed to dissolve. She leaned closer, her free hand rising to touch his face with gentle curiosity. Logan held perfectly still, hardly daring to breathe. The moment was broken by a change in the storm's intensity. Siriana's head snapped toward the entrance, her body tensing, but she didn't release his hand immediately. Instead, she squeezed it gently before moving away. The next morning brought their most challenging mission yet, a reconnaissance deep into enemy territory. They moved through the wasteland with practiced synchronization, Logan learning to anticipate Siriana's movements while she adapted to his human limitations. When Logan stumbled into a camouflaged sink pit, Siriana's reaction was immediate and fierce. She rappelled down without hesitation, her movements frantic as she checked him for injuries. Her clicking was rapid, almost panicked the first time Logan had heard genuine emotion in her voice. "I'm okay," he assured her, but she continued her examination, her hands gentle but thorough. When she finally looked up at him, Logan saw something in her alien features that made his breath catch. It wasn't just concern, it was fear. Fear of losing him. "Siriana," he whispered. And this time, when she leaned closer, he didn't hesitate. Their lips met in a kiss that was tentative at first, then deeper as she responded with surprising passion. They were no longer just partners. They were something more. The mission briefing should have been routine. Extract intelligence from a crashed enemy vessel, then return to base. But Logan sensed something wrong the moment Commander Hayes avoided his eyes during the briefing. "Intel suggests minimal resistance," Hayes said, her voice too controlled. "Standard extraction protocol. You'll have full support from orbital reconnaissance." Siriana's clicking was barely audible, but Logan had learned to read her subtle warnings. She sensed the deception too. 12 hours later, they were pinned down in the crashed vessel's wreckage while enemy forces surrounded them. The promised orbital support never came. Their communications were jammed, and their extraction point was compromised. "We've been set up," Logan said through gritted teeth as pulse fire lit up the alien corridor around them. Siriana's response was a sharp, angry clicking that needed no translation. She was furious not just at the betrayal, but at the danger it put Logan in. They fought their way deeper into the ship, seeking any defensible position. Logan's ammunition was running low, and his environmental suit showed multiple minor breaches. Siriana was bleeding from a gash on her arm, purple blood staining her tactical gear. "There," Logan pointed to what looked like a sealed compartment. "Engineering section. Might have another way out." Inside, they found themselves in a maze of alien technology and conduits. Siriana examined the systems with practiced efficiency, her fingers dancing over controls that made no sense to Logan. "Can you get us out of here?" he asked. Her clicking was complex, uncertain. She was explaining something about the ship's emergency systems, but Logan caught the underlying message. It was dangerous, possibly fatal. "Do it," he said without hesitation. Siriana stopped, staring at him. Her clicking was soft, questioning. She was asking if he truly trusted her with his life. "Yes," Logan said, moving closer. "I trust you completely." Something shifted in her expression. The cold efficiency that had defined her melted away, replaced by something raw and vulnerable. She moved to him, her hands framing his face as she clicked rapidly in what Logan now recognized as her species expression of deep emotion. "I know," he whispered against her lips. "I feel it too." Their kiss was desperate, passionate, filled with the knowledge that they might not survive the next hour. When they broke apart, Siriana's eyes held a fierce determination. She turned back to the controls, her fingers flying as she activated systems that made the ship's hull groan ominously. Logan watched her work, understanding that she was risking everything, not just her life, but her standing with her own people. Tyree didn't form emotional attachments to other species. It was against their nature, but she was doing it anyway. "For him, Logan," she said, using his name for the first time. Her pronunciation was careful, deliberate. "When I activate this, you must run. Do not look back." "What about you?" Her smile was sad and beautiful. "I will be right behind you, always." The explosion that followed rocked the ship's foundation. Emergency systems screamed warnings in alien languages as sections of the hull began to collapse. But Siriana's plan worked. The blast created a breach in the enemy's perimeter, and the confusion gave them the opening they needed. They ran through chaos and smoke. Logan's hand clasped in Siriana's as she led him through paths only she could see. Behind them, the enemy forces scrambled to respond, but they were too late. They were free, but they were also alone. No support, no backup, no way home except their own skills and the bond that had grown between them. As they took shelter in a rocky outcropping, Logan pulled Siriana close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. 2 days of walking through Carthun Prime's hostile terrain had pushed them to their limits. Logan's environmental suit was failing, and their water supplies were nearly gone. But Siriana's knowledge of the planet's hidden paths had kept them alive. There, she said, pointing to a distant structure that shimmered in the heat haze. Abandoned research station, water reclamation still functional. Her English was improving, mixing with her natural clicking to create a unique communication style that was theirs alone. Logan had begun to understand that her species' emotional distance wasn't inability, it was choice. And she was choosing to break those barriers for him. At the station, they found more than water. A functional communications ray gave them contact with loyalist forces who'd been searching for them. The betrayal at command had been exposed, and extraction was possible. 6 hours, Logan told Siriana after the transmission ended. A rescue shuttle can reach us in 6 hours. She nodded, but her expression was troubled. And then, Logan understood her concern. Once they returned to base, questions would be asked. Their relationship would be scrutinized, possibly forbidden. The military had protocols about fraternization, and those became even more complex when dealing with alien partnerships. "We'll figure it out," he said, drawing her into his arms. "We've survived everything else." Siriana's response was a soft clicking that sounded almost like crying. Logan realized that her species might not show tears the way humans did, but the emotion was just as real. "I cannot go back to who I was," she said quietly. "My people, they will not understand what I have become." "Then don't go back," Logan said fiercely. "Stay with me. We'll request permanent partnership status. The military needs teams like us." Her eyes searched his face. "You would ask me to abandon my people. I'm asking you to choose your own path. Like you chose to save me. Like you chose to trust me." The 6 hours passed quickly. They spent the time in each other's arms, talking about possible futures and sharing stories of their worlds. Logan learned that Siriana's name meant Pathfinder in her language, someone who found new ways forward. When the rescue shuttle arrived, Commander Hayes was aboard personally. Her expression was grim as she took in their appearance and the obvious intimacy between them. "We'll debrief later," she said curtly. "Right now, let's get you home." The journey back to Outpost Zeta 17 was tense. Logan held Siriana's hand openly, daring anyone to comment. She sat straight and proud, her clicking calm and measured. Whatever consequences awaited them, they would face them together. At the base, Hayes called them into her office immediately. "I won't pretend I don't know what's happened between you two," she began. Under normal circumstances, this would be a disciplinary matter. Logan started to protest, but Hayes held up a hand. "However, your success rate as a team is unprecedented. You've completed every mission, survived situations that killed other teams, and now you've exposed a betrayal that goes to the highest levels of command." She paused. "Studying them, I'm recommending you for permanent partnership status. Congratulations. You're now the first official human Tyree tactical team." Relief flooded through Logan, but it was Siriana's reaction that made him smile. Her clicking was pure joy, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. That night, as they stood on the observation deck watching Carthun Prime's crimson sunset, Logan felt complete for the first time in years. Siriana leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, and he realized that sometimes the best partnerships were the ones that couldn't be explained, only experienced. "Logan," she said softly, "I have found my path." "So have I," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "So have won." Their bond needed no words, no official recognition. It simply was as natural as breathing, as necessary as life itself.